Hi, I'm Tori Nook. Welcome back to the Tori Nook Talk Show, where real conversations meet real success. And I speak with a lot of inspiring people who are making a big impact through their work, their stories, and the way they help others live intentionally. I'm your host, Tori Nook, and my conversation today is with my friend, Malminder Gill. Malminder is out of London, England, and I met her about, I think, 2, 3 years ago.
3 years
Through
ago.
yeah, when John and I stayed at the Cadogan Hotel in Kensington, in London. That's a neighborhood of London for anyone who doesn't know. And I was really intrigued because they had this whole list of sleep concierge products through Malminder, who is a clinical hypnotherapist, and we're going to dive deeper into her business. Of being a hypnotherapist and a sleep concierge. Um, and she's a Harley Street clinical hypnotherapist with over 15 years experience. She's a discrete force behind some of the most recognizable names in the world. And she is working in complete confidentiality with global leaders, high profile individuals, royal circles, and with celebrities. And if you follow her, you'll get a sneak peek on a lot of them. um, Elmander has built a reputation with helping people create lasting behavioral changes through her clinical hypnotherapy work and deep subconscious pattern work. She is especially known for her mastery of hypnotic narrative, guiding mind into very calm, deeply restorative states. I know this because I've worked with Melmander for many years since I met her. Her expertise has shaped through thousands of private sessions that she does around the world, and she's helped inform like bespoke sleep programs for very luxury hotels that I'm sure many of you have stayed at, between Mandarin Oriental, the Maybourne Hotel Group, and also the Cadogan. So welcome, Malminder. I'm so
Thank
excited to
you.
have you on and unload all this fun stuff about how you. I mean, it's intriguing because when I met you, I actually had never seen a hypnotherapist before, a clinical one.
Yeah.
and and I well, let me take that back. I did, but that was for like past life regression, like totally different stuff than when
Very
you're
different.
like smaller celebrities, royals, etc. Um, and how did you even get into this line of work? Because I know you didn't start out of college, so maybe we should start there. Like, what did you go to school for? What did you really do? And then how did you get to being a clinical hypnotherapist?
Well, actually, I kind of fell into it. I know that's a bit of a boring answer, but my first experience of hypnotherapy was for insomnia that I had experienced
Hmm.
when I was 17 or 18 years old. I had a minor car accident at that age and school exams at the same time. And then I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't sleep for several months. And I went to see a hypnotherapist who helped me, and I fell asleep. And that was wonderful. And then the years went on. Graduated from university, started an office job,
Hmm.
and quite simply, I was head of international at that job. I was 27, 26 years old, and I was out in Argentina at the time working there. And there was just so much conflict between the US team and the international team, and so much conflict, and like
Who was
bold
causing all the trouble?
red.
You
Right.
guys?
I mean, I'm not saying anything. I can't remember. But there's just horrendous emails going backwards and forwards. And I remember saying to my boss, I said, I can't do this anymore.
Hmm.
This is a little bit above my pay grade, but because he wasn't stepping in to sort it out, it was all just landing on me. And I said, I can't do this. I'm leaving. And he said to me, he said, don't leave, go and do a coaching course and learn how to deal with conflict. So while I was out in Buenos Aires,
Hmm.
I found an English speaking tutor of coaching, neuro linguistic programming, and who happened to be a hypnotherapist.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
And
every morning I met her for café con leche and a medialunas, these little mini croissants, delicious. And while I was out there for those months, every day she was teaching me from her manual. So she has her own school out there. And
Okay.
so she was teaching me an abbreviated version, coaching in NLP, and she did do a few hypnotherapy sessions. And I was just blown away. I loved it. And then what happened was, because I had a bit of a traveling job, so everywhere I went afterwards, in Asia, in North America, across Europe, I would always seek out a teacher, either a spiritual teacher or a coach or a psychologist or somebody that I could meet for the week or the weekend who would teach me something new, and then I'd get a little certificate at the end of it, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's really cool
and
though.
I did a lot of that while I was in my regular day job back then. And then that company made me redundant.
Mhm.
And because I think it was 2007 or that sort of time, or 2008. And then at that time, I'd already qualified myself up
Okay.
on the side. And then I started my private practice. And I'll never forget my last hypnotherapy teacher, and he was in the UK. I had a chat with him because I was ready to open my clinic.
Okay.
And I said, well, I live in Marylebone, or I did at the time. And I said, well, I'm going to open a clinic on Harley Street
Mhm.
because that's my neighborhood.
Right.
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 And he said, oh, Malminder, you can't do that. And I said, why not? And he said, well, because you have to be working for at least 20 years before you go on Harley Street.
And whose rule is that? Even though, if for anyone who's not familiar with the UK and Harley Street, I mean, that's where like the shishi of every doctor, clinic,
That's the medical district,
it's the
basically.
total medical district, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he said, you can't do that. And I said, why not? And he said, you haven't been practicing for 20 years. And I said, I remember saying, I don't, Dave, I don't have 20 years.
Right.
And that was that. And then I did start on Harley Street. I started on number 2 Harley Street, which, if anybody doesn't know about Harley Street, number 2, the lower numbers, I mean, then if you've got a clinic there, it's questionable. You want to be on the number 50 and above is more is better. So I started at number 2 and worked my way up, and
Yeah.
currently my clinic's at number 96.
Yay.
And this kind of snobbery, it does matter because people do make those
Of
sorts of
course they do.
decisions. And
Yeah.
actually, it's because Howard de Walden estate, they basically own Marylebone. They own most of Harley Street except the early numbers, the lower numbers, and that's where any other person can pretty much go and set up a
Go in and
clinic.
set up a clinic, but you got
So
to start somewhere and work your way up, right?
you have to, and they're very strict. They're very
Mhm.
strict about who gets on there and who doesn't in the higher numbers. So there's a
Right.
little tip for you.
Yeah. Well, it makes it easier living in London because we don't have like a hierarchy system here, right? In the US, it's crapshoot and doing your own research, but literally they've got your address showing your experience level, right?
Wow, yeah,
If you
exactly.
think about it
Yeah.
over there. So you set up shop and did you still keep your day job or did you just start cold turkey? Like you saved up enough money, you have your certificate, your experience, like, or did you mesh it until you had X amount of clients and then started Harley Street?
No, I had like a 1 year off
Okay.
in between, where I was sort of figuring out what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it.
Okay.
And in that, and I
Mhm.
had the luxury of time
Right.
to be able to do that.
Right.
And also in that time, I was seeing a few clients, friends of friends, those, neighbors and things, but at home. And then once I got my keys, it was just, that was it.
So for someone who may be curious but unfamiliar, what exactly is clinical hypnotherapy? And what do you wish like people understood about it?
Yeah.
Because
So
I
I'm
get,
just,
I told you, people are asking me all the time after they saw your Instagram post when
like, what are you doing with her?
you're like, oh my God, tell me about like what's hypnotherapy like? And a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, so I've got a little prop for this.
Okay.
So what people think hypnotherapy is staring into something like this or a dangling watch, right?
Right, right. They do, the
And
dangling
and,
watch,
and
the
yeah,
crystal,
so
right?
so
Yeah,
you don't do that, but the
yeah.
next person who visits me might have to because I've bought it now and I love it. But so it's not that or dangling or watch dangling, and it's not mind control. Um, let's face it, we're most of the time we're out of control of our own minds.
For sure.
What chance
That's why
does
people get
somebody else
sleep.
have to
Right.
get in there, right? But hypnotherapy, quite simply, is a conversation with the subconscious mind
Mhm,
in the most simplest sense. And I know there's a lot out there on television, especially in former times in the 90s and the noughties and the Y2K time,
mhm,
with, hypnotic entertainment, stage hypnotics, and, oh, I was barking like a dog or quacking like a duck or doing this, that, and the
mhm,
other. It's not that. Clinical hypnotherapy is there to help with serious matters of the mind. So it might be anxiety, it might be sleep issues, it might be a
mhm.
mild depression, it
Okay.
might be, public speaking, fear of flying, phobias, that sort of thing.
So, why would somebody see a clinical hypnotherapist
Hmm.
versus a psychologist or to work with?
Yeah, I mean, great question. So when you see a psychologist, they're usually looking at things really from a medical lens and from a
Mhm.
study evidence-based lens. And it's not to say that there's no evidence for hypnotherapy, but they've got like when you go and see a psychologist, that they'll have their assessments and their tests.
Right.
And as a patient, you would see your psychologist, and they'll run some assessments.
Mhm.
They will help to diagnose what the problem is, and then start a course of therapy that that is recommended depending on the test that you've done. And so
Mhm.
it's much more clinical, and I would say, in a sense, very conscious heavy. So you're really working with your thinking consciousness, your thinking brain. I think this is what happened. And
Mhm.
that's it. And it kind of does, in a sense, sit at that level. Now, with clinical hypnotherapy, we don't, I mean, I don't do tests and things like that.
Right.
I listen to the client's problems, first of all.
Mhm.
And I personally, I usually intuit what I feel is a good hypnotherapy session for that person,
Okay.
and then I would write a story,
Mhm.
a hypnotic story, with the therapeutic change in there, and I will use um, some psychotherapeutic models. I might use a little bit of Gestalt therapy in there. I might use timeline or
Right.
time progression. I might use parts therapy or internal family systems. I might bring a little bit of that
Mhm.
flavor in there into the story,
Right.
but I'm not doing that outright. I might bring that flavor into the story, and it's within the story where the key is, where the treatment is. And storytelling for sorting out problems is just as old as time.
Very good point. It
It
is.
really is. Like, we know about the moral of the story, and we've grown up with fairy tales, and we learn through storytelling what to do and what not to do. And
Mhm.
storytelling, imagery, symbols, these are the language. These are the
Right.
languages of the subconscious mind. So
Mhm.
I use all of those when
Yeah.
talking to the subconscious mind. So it's completely different from psychology.
Would a psychologist refer a patient to you to work on, or no? Or would they, or do they do hypnotherapy themselves, some of them? Because
Some
they
of them might do. I'm not aware of any that do, and there probably are some that do.
Mhm.
And a psychologist will be saying, yeah, actually, Malminder, we do work with the subconscious mind in a different way, and they do. I mean, when you go to therapy, I just want to make this very clear. When you go to therapy, whatever kind of mental health therapy it is, you will be working at the conscious and the subconscious level. The difference is the weighting.
Right. The concept of
Hypnotherapy
which
is,
one.
yeah, hypnotherapy is heavily weighted on the subconscious,
Right.
and then you get some therapies that are heavily weighted on conscious thinking. But we do cross over. We are working whole because it's happening all inside your brain. So we
Right.
are working. All of us are working on the whole.
And just so for listeners who've never done this, because I've obviously worked with you, and I didn't know what to expect, and we talked about what I wanted to work on, and I'm assuming most people come to you knowing what they want to work on, right? They
Yes.
know there's something that is, say, blocking them, from I mean, you name it. I mean, people could come to you for smoking, but people could come to you for anxiety, feeling like that's something that's holding them back and they have no idea why they're anxious at all. Like some people can pinpoint it exactly what they're anxious about, and some can't.
Mm.
And either way, if they can pinpoint it or not, you can dig in. And when when you when you go and do this work, you obviously are laying down, whether it's on a couch or if you like, I know we had a session even at Mandarin Hotel out there in their spa area. You lay down on the bed there and you sit down and you have a very meditative voice. And to tell you the truth, I can't remember what happened because I wind up falling asleep. Even but the thing is your storyline still is speaking. It doesn't matter if you fall asleep or not, to the subconscious. And you feel a lot of energy definitely moving in your body, especially as you're waking up out of it. And
Yeah.
um I don't want to say it's like anything. I mean, you can't see, it's not something visible, but you will see a visible change after, I would say, a couple sessions. I don't know how many sessions people go to you, and I'm sure it depends on what they're going for too.
Yeah. Well, people normally come for several sessions.
I figured it's a one-time
Yeah.
shot
Yes.
with any issue.
But it is exactly like you say. It is a very relaxing experience. A lot of people do fall asleep.
Hmm.
And we've got to be, clear about this. If you're coming to me on a Friday, last thing, you're probably going to fall asleep. If you're coming to me Monday, 8 a.m., you've probably just had 3 shots of coffee. But but it is very, very relaxing. And my voice, with the background music and the kind of story I'm telling, and it will be very, very relaxing. So lots of people do fall asleep, sometimes at the start, sometimes in and out, and people have all sorts of sensations, that they're feeling heaviness, lightness, pins and needles, or they see certain things like certain colors, or they're
Right.
drawn to certain memories, or
Mhm.
pleasant memories, or it just depends.
Right. Now, are you also, because with the subconscious and how it works, I mean, it's such a powerful place to work in someone. I don't think people realize how powerful and the lasting behavioral change that can come for it when they go see a clinical hypnotherapist. But what is, when people like walk away from this? I mean, have you ever not seen a behavioral change?
Yeah.
I mean,
Clients will tell me. So, in between each hypnotherapy session, I have a catch up call.
mhm,
And, I'll always say, I want the unvarnished truth. You won't hurt my feelings. I didn't invent this stuff. I mean, I did write
right,
the story, but I didn't invent hypnotherapy. So, tell me how it is. Tell me what's going on. And some people, most people, do get good results. And I think over the years, I've got really good and very particular about which client I take on. But in the early days, fresh out of hypnotherapy school, I was just doing what we were taught. Like, if you have a stop smoking client, here's a
mhm,
big binder full of scripts. Read this. Or they
right,
have public speaking anxiety. Read this. And I started out like that, like everybody else. But I quickly learned that actually I have quite a high um, fail point. Actually, it was hit and miss, and
okay,
that's when you are relying on theatrics. That's when you do need a dangly watch, or like a big cape, or you have to like act all mysterious and all of that sort of stuff, right? Because you have to then try and create an experience in the room that matches the person's expectations. So if the person is expecting you to touch their forehead and then they collapse on the floor,
right,
um, you could ride off that placebo effect as a hypnotherapist, and that's that. You know, and I didn't do that. I got really curious about the client's problem, so I started to listen more carefully, and then I started off by rejigging the scripts from the binder that I was given when I finished, and then in the end I just like
Started doing
started to
your
write
own.
them, started to write my own, and over time I became better at it and better at it, and I could, in an initial assessment with a new client, I would be able to assess very quickly, and now I can. Um, that's the kind of problem I can help with. No, it's not. Or, you know, you actually do need to go and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist or this person, that person. And I even now I continue to refer out a lot.
Oh, I'm
I'm
sure you
very
do.
specific about what I take on. Now it's mainly anxiety and sleep
Okay.
anxiety. That they're my main. If somebody comes to me for stop smoking, unless it's a real favor for a friend,
Okay.
I don't do
You're not
it. I
gonna do
don't do
those
it.
little things anymore. I mean, you've graduated from that. And speaking of
Yeah.
graduating from that, how long did it take you to really build up your business and break through? Because I mean, now you're obviously very well known. I mean, you're in the press. You've got BBC. You know, all these people calling you, and you're on a ton of panels and speaking and everything. How long did it take you to get up and running?
I think it happened gradually. I don't think there was a point where, you know, I mean, to be fair, after I qualified, I did do my own SEO on my website,
Hmm.
and I was doing my own SEO on my website for
Okay.
months, for about 9 months, and then suddenly, right before Christmas, I was on the first page of Google, and I started to get inquiries
Okay.
because, but, and and then I think being on the first page of Google and on Harley Street gave
Hmm.
me a bit of a step up.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think it just happened gradually. And um, for me, a lot of it is word of mouth from my clients. So I don't run ads. I don't
Which is the
do,
only way to meet it is, and I think in any business is when you're just working off referrals, right?
yeah, just client referrals. And it's been like that now for 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
I sometimes I get queries coming in now. Somebody saying, "Hey, I saw you in 2014, and you really helped me. Could I come and see you again?" I can't remember who that person is. I have to go back and try and think who that is.
I
Um,
want to know how, when you broke into the world of celebrity, I mean, anyone who follows Malminder will see like she's worked with all different celebrities. What are they coming to you mostly for? Is it anxiety? Is it prep for like what's because I mean you have a big following in that arena too.
yes, I do. So
Me.
I work a lot. I work a lot in. I work a lot in the film industry.
Hmm.
Actors, directors, producers, screenwriters, and they have the same problems as all of us. As long as we're breathing and we've got a brain that we have to use to think, we all have the same problems. The difference with them is that when I compare them to other clients who aren't in the film industry, rejection is rife.
Okay.
It's intense. It's intense. You might go up for audition, or the studio won't buy your film, or
Hmm.
they're not going to take your script or whatever, right? And it's all of that stuff, and so you're constantly. As a professional in the film industry, having to advocate for yourself, and that gets tiring.
Right.
Pushing, pushing, pushing. So that is a very specific difference where, there's a lot of rejection kind of comes with it. And with that clientele, typically I'm working on creative writing block or creative block, or
Hmm.
getting into your character,
Right.
or unfortunately, in some situations, um, helping them when some of their personal life has leaked into the public press, and the stress and the damage that causes,
Yeah.
with their family and so on. So, and because they'll have things like relationship breakups, like we all do, you know, maybe, perhaps maybe drinking a little bit too much
Mhm.
wine every once in a while,
Right.
or some unhealthy habits like too much skin picking as a way to, you know, to get rid of the anxiety, whatever it is, but it just comes out in a different way.
Yeah. I know what I was curious about, like, speaking of drinking, I mean, this is a little off subject, and then I want to get into sleep and what your big mission is too, is with sleep. But with drinking, would a true alcoholic be able to come to you, not someone who's anxiety drinking, but could they be cured through hypnotherapy? I was just thinking of that.
I'm sure there are a few cases. I wouldn't, as a clinical, I wouldn't take that client on. I'd
Yeah.
refer them on to somebody else. I mean, in the past, I have done a few sessions here and there for like
Mhm.
wine moderation,
Okay.
but, um, but I think it's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different
Addiction.
ballgame.
It's a whole different ballgame. Addiction.
Yeah.
And when I have worked in, with treatment centres and addiction and rehab centres, the kind of support I offer is um, inside a multidisciplinary team. So I'll be working alongside counsellors and rehab coaches and things like that. So I've done enough work in that space to
In that
know,
arena. Mhm.
do not just go to a hypnotherapist.
Right. Okay.
Have a
Noted.
hypnotherapist, but also have a few other people.
Yeah. So, how did you get, because that's how I met you, as this sleep concierge, right?
Yeah.
And how did you get into being known for creating these deeply restorative sleep experiences and programs? And what does even true restorative sleep mean to you beyond simply just getting a few hours of sleep a night? I mean, you literally structured a whole business on this.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, the clue's in the name, hypnosis, hypnos. It means sleep.
Right.
So, regardless of the issue that the client's has come to me for in the last almost 16 years now,
Hmm.
um, there's an element of sleep in every single session, whether if it's nail biting or fear of flying. Clients will reach the point where either they are sleeping in the session or they're about to fall asleep.
Hmm.
And so I have thousands of clinical hours behind me in the arena of sleep.
Hmm.
Now, I started out with hypnotherapy as an insomniac. So it's
Yeah.
kind
Right.
of come full
Full
circle
circle. Right.
around. I've
Yeah.
always had an interest in sleep because
Hmm.
when I was 17 and 18, I used to watch the sun come up, and it's horrible, horrible. I didn't have anything to take my mind off it. Um, so it's funny because it has come full circle back. Sleep has been an interest of mine really from the get-go.
Right.
Um, and every session I deliver is sleep friendly. And the thing is, it's such a universal topic. We all have to
It's
sleep.
really true. I mean, so many people have sleep issues. Like, who doesn't?
So,
And that
yeah,
even, like, leads me into, like, the next question. The fact, like, these luxury hotel brands, how do they even get connected with you to even, and just to, like, back up, because I realize even these luxury brands aren't as luxurious in America, but they sure are luxurious in Europe and Asia and the Middle East. I mean, it's like a whole other level. But what I find interesting is you not only provide meditations that they have on their app, right?
mm,
The hotel's app, but also you have weighted blankets. There's a lavender spray. I mean, you have like a whole array of even products like to go around. But going back to my original question, how did you even get involved with them? Because I think it was a really smart idea on their end. Because who isn't curious at looking at a sleep concierge, next to their bed and going through what's there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like I used, and I still do, I travel a lot for work. So I will go and see clients all over the world to do intensives for a week or 10
Okay.
days. I'll be there and then we'll do some serious work day after day.
Okay.
Um, for me, I was just thinking, I started to become very, very pedantic and very, very protective of my sleep. And then the client would put me up in a five-star hotel or a four-star hotel, usually five-star. And I'd go in there thinking that's perfect. But, they didn't have the right pillows or that really bad soundproofing. And this is just something that I want to say in case there's anybody out there, one of your listeners who's about to build a hotel. I know I know about soundproofing that goes around the walls. We need it in the ceilings
Mhm.
and the floors. I mean, that was a piece that was missing. And so then I wasn't sleeping because of that. And then you look at the tea tray, there's nothing there, relaxed. And then I started thinking, we need something because what is a hotel there for? It is, we go there to sleep, but they've, a lot of hotels haven't thought about the sleep.
Right.
There's no blackout curtains
It's
or,
almost like a boarding room.
yeah. And so then I approached the hotels. I approached Belmont, at the hotel you were staying at in Chelsea. I approached Belmont and I said, here's a program. It's ready to go. I will recommend everything you need to do in the hotel rooms to help improve sleep. And they loved it and they took it on board. And that was that.
And obviously people really crave good sleep, whether it's at a hotel or not a hotel. I mean, do you ever find that any of these sleep issues that people have are a signal that something's like even deeper, but once they do, so I'm switching from the hotels to like that their emotional life or their subconscious needs attention? Because once you clean up the sleep issues, I'm assuming through hypnotherapy, I would think that their lives, relationships, work, decision making, everything shifts, right?
I mean, if more people had better quality sleep, we would be living in a different world.
Right.
And if you've historically been a good sleeper, you
Mhm.
know the difference it makes in you when you get one night bad sleep, and then when you get 3 or 4 bad nights bad sleep, you know that your diet's off. You're probably eating more, a little bit more agitated. Things are just, getting to you more than they used to.
Right.
But then that all builds up, right?
Oh,
All starts to build up, and so that's one cause of sleep issues. But then there's these things of like hidden anxiety, hidden depression.
mm,
That's why I'm not sleeping.
mhm,
I don't have a sleep problem, but I have an overthinking problem, Malminder.
right.
I hear that a lot, right?
It was me.
You know, or it's all of that sort of thing. Like I'm in bed and
Mhm,
I can't stop thinking
mhm,
about whatever happened today or yesterday, or worry about the future. That's huge. And then we have
right.
phones and screens and all of that sort of stuff, and then it tells your brain to stay awake, stay awake, stay awake. More stimulation, and that's not what we need.
No, I mean, we're in this culture of like this hustle culture being totally ridiculously overstimulated. It's terrible, really.
I am just done with it.
I am too. I mean, you must be on overload since the iPhones came out. Not really. I mean, I would think with so many anxiety, depression, and sleep issues.
Yeah, especially with people who will say procrastination. I
Mm,
can't focus. I'm tired all the time. And you ask them about how's your sleep. Yeah, I get into bed at 10:30, and then I wake up at 7 or 8, and I'm there. But when do you think you're falling asleep? Yeah, I stay on my phone
mhm.
because I can't fall asleep. So but me personally, I'm very good at switching off. I could sit here and look at a blank wall
Mhm.
for half an hour and not do anything. But I've been like that for a long while.
Right. I
So,
think it takes time. Like I can too now, where I used to be a total nut job, like all over, overstimulated even before iPhones came out. Um, but what do you like? Because I know that you're writing a book that's going to be published later this year, um, in regards to sleep, and I wanted to see if you want to talk more about what that's about.
yeah. So in January 2027, my new book is coming out. It's I don't have a book title yet.
Okay, most writers don't till
um,
the end.
yeah,
Pretty
so I
typical.
don't have a book title yet, but it's full of sleep stories.
Hmm.
Short ones, long ones, they're all designed to bore you into sleep.
Hmm.
So if you don't finish the sleep story or you don't finish the book, I'll be very happy.
Great. I noticed about, I think it was 2016 when I don't know, I stumbled myself upon like YouTube and things to help you fall asleep. Like I personally cannot fall asleep without listening to a sleep story.
Yeah.
I
So,
I really I can't. It's not I think when I was younger, I would put, like, classic music on because you didn't have these things, right? You
yeah, yeah.
or, YouTube or whatever to help you out.
Yeah, I think in this day and age we do need a little bit of help. So the book and the audio version of the book, which I'll be
Mhm.
narrating.
Right.
So Tori, just wait a few more months. You can listen
The
to
best
me every
way
night.
to I mean, to to get into a sleep mode or hypnotic state, right? You have to have a special voice for that.
Yeah, so
So, with all this, this is all a part of healing, going to hypnotherapy, and for people to get back to, feeling safe within themselves. I mean, how important, I mean, do they even realize when they're coming to you, like how important emotional safety is when it comes to doing this work? Or is it like people are just mostly focused on, that one issue versus that really through doing this work, um, they can really become more of like a whole person.
well, normally when people come to see me, they're so focused on their pain, whatever that is, on their suffering,
Right.
and they're coming to me with hope beyond hope,
Mhm.
usually, that I will be able to help.
Okay.
And as a hypnotherapist, I get what other mental health professionals don't get, and that is the question of, is this going to work? We don't go to psychotherapists or counselors and
Mhm.
ask, is this going to work? But that's a
Right.
question I always get. So
Right.
it's kind of like a real performance-based job, I think.
Yeah.
But when people come to see me, um, they some of them have exhausted quite a few other avenues.
Okay. They're at the
Um,
lapse.
Sometimes it is a bit like that. And then they were speaking to their friend, and their friend said, I saw Malminder, why don't you go and see her? She might be able to help. And that's it. And I'm very candid. I'm very upfront, and I'll say, yeah, or I'll say, this bit I can help you in the whole problem. I can help you with this bit of it.
Right.
But for the rest of it, you might need to work with someone else, and I'm happy to communicate with that other professional, so that you have, full support. So yeah, but normally people are coming with pain and they're seeking comfort.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we're all carrying pain, and the fact like you can even recognize it to go get help and realize it is really deep down, even subconsciously something you need to release. Because that was my next question is, I mean, would why do people not give them do people ever give themselves, because coming up to you they have not given themselves any permission to release things. They finally are giving you, permission after carrying this load, these loads, I'm wondering, and you work with both men and women. I mean, how do you get them to finally just release it? Is it, do you think even after like even one sitting, they realize like there's some, sort of change going on with them?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the issue. Like some people, they'll talk about the problem, and as they're talking about it, they don't realize what it is that they're carrying.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I might ask a few non-leading, open-ended questions, because I'm operating also from a place of curiosity. I don't know. I'm not the expert in their life. They are. So
Yeah.
I have to ask the right questions. And I might get answers that aren't helpful too, by the way. But then that just speaks to the confusion. But in essence, a lot of people don't know what they're carrying. They just know it hurts.
Hmm.
Some people are a little bit more in tune, and they know, yeah, I know I'm carrying the weight of this because the pain speaks to me.
Hmm.
Uh, it tells me, I know, I can sense it, and I want to unload that and get rid of it. And, with those clients, we can go straight into a process to help with that. But, you know, mostly, even the ones that know they're carrying something, they don't know how much. It's,
Hmm.
it's just something that's just kind of locked away and hidden in the subconscious mind, not really looked at all.
Right.
Right. So, because it's too scary to look at it.
It is too scary. And that's another question I have is, once you do work with a client and unravel everything through the subconscious, obviously, is there a way for the subconscious ever to really go back to that again? Because obviously the issues you have are so deep rooted. Those are years of a buildup, like
Yeah, yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think there's a bit of both. Sometimes it is a case of we've targeted the correct route
Hmm.
and we've uprooted it and it's gone. Sometimes we've targeted like a sibling route,
Hmm.
close enough but not it. So we've solved a bit of the problem but not all of it, and then we'll do some more work around it. And that's why I always say several sessions,
Right.
never do 1 or 2 sessions.
No.
Because
Like an
because
hour to do, if
we're going for the whole thing.
right. And you only have what, an hour to do it, right? That's
Yeah, an
you're not gonna
hour.
sit
Yeah,
there for hours on end doing hypnotherapy. It's about an hour session, and you could do it consecutive days. You could do it every week, or you could do it through Zoom. You could do it, at your home, or you
yeah.
could go to the your office too to do it. It works either way, which I think some people can't believe that, but it's true. It does. You could do it.
Does work on Zoom or
Mhm.
online, as long as you can hear
Right.
me or the hypnotherapist. That's the main thing. I mean, it's always nice to meet the person,
Of
you
course.
know, but Zoom in lockdown. I was only on Zoom.
Yeah. So, like,
No.
at this stage in your life, what does deep rest and like true well-being mean to you?
More comfort throughout the day,
Hmm.
deep comfort at night.
Hmm.
Little things for me because I'm, you know, I don't want to be a show off, but I am a good sleeper. But that is because I've made my life very comfortable in comfortable bed.
Right.
I try and bring in as much comfort as possible to cushion life
Right.
because I still get smacked around as much as anybody else.
Right.
Um, so as much as I'm a hypnotherapist in my day job, I'm still going out there,
And
in the
you're
world. Yeah,
you've got a family, and you're busy, and we just deal with life things
yeah,
constantly.
yeah.
And I think I agree. The end goal is, I don't, in my 20s, I would have never said this, but when I was blowing and going, but is inner peace.
It is. Yeah. It's what can you do to make this segment of your life experience just a little bit nicer?
Right.
And the more painful or anxiety-inducing or whatever you're dreading it, the more comfort. I say.
Right.
Right. So if I know I've got this thing that I really don't want to do, like
Mhm.
I still do my own bookkeeping, right?
Yeah.
I hate it. I do it once a month and I
Mhm.
do all of the line items. I'm a part qualified accountant for my sins, but I do all the reconciliations. I go through zero and I do all of them. And it's just such a bore. But I make sure that I'm listening to my favorite radio program
Mhm.
or podcast, that I've got my cup of coffee. It's the right time of day. I'm sitting at the right place, and my I'm sitting on a comfortable chair, and and I just get on with it. I make it into a comfortable, nice experience, and that is my ethos in life. I do that with everything now, and I never used to do that. That's a new thing,
Well, you
new
make
way
it
of
a
living.
hypnotic experience, right? So
Yeah,
you can actually enjoy what you're doing. You have all
yeah,
your creature comforts around you.
yeah. I've really got into that in my 40s.
Hmm. Hmm.
20s and 30s, I wouldn't have thought about any of that. I'd
No,
be
I
like, oh,
think
what are
I'm really
you
mature in
talking
my 40s too. It's a great place to be.
about?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So what are like your last words of wisdom that you would give the listeners?
I mean, taking sleep seriously.
Hmm. Okay.
It's worth looking after your sleep. It really is worth looking after your sleep
Yeah.
because if you can look after your sleep will look after your brain and the health of your body.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on. And where can everybody find you?
My Instagram, Malminder.Gill. I'm following Tori. Tori's following me, so that's probably easy. And on LinkedIn, Malminder Gill. And again, I'm following Tori. And yeah, my website as well, Malminder Gill. I've got Malminder Gill everywhere.
Yeah,
So
you're branded as your name.
I'm branded as my name, but there's not many Malminder Girls out
No, I
there.
don't actually. You're the only Malminder I ever met, and
Me too.
for anyone who doesn't know how to spell it, it's Malminder
Yeah.
Gill.
Yeah.
Super
And if you
simple.
type in Malminder or Malmi,
Mhm.
I will come up. So
Yeah,
it's my
you do.
little
You
country.
and you have a huge following on LinkedIn and Instagram. Quite impressive. So I really thank you for taking the time to be here and sharing your wisdom with everyone today on such a curious subject so many people have reached out to me about. I know this conversation is going to resonate with many people, especially anyone who's been struggling quietly with stress and anxiety and sleep, or just trying to find daily peace in their lives, right?
Yeah.
So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We drop every Tuesday on Apple, Spotify, my YouTube channel at Tori Nook. And, please give a 5-star review, rate, review, send in any comments. I think everyone knows where to find me on my website, and my social media links are Tori Nook. And thanks.